Good morning, everyone. Now 47 minutes after the hour. How are y'all doing? Good morning, Renee. Good morning, Les, Carrie, Travis. Oh, you're excited, Travis. Is Nature's Landscaping only open 24/7 during winter events? I'm not sure. I believe so, though. Good morning, Raphael, Sandra. All right. Hope you guys are doing well. Wade Peter, all just Brian. Good. Welcome to SnowTALK on this Wednesday. A lot to cover today. Obviously, with the front coming in for tomorrow, its impacts, and then as of course we'll get into the boring Christmas weather, blah blah blah, and then we'll get into at least some thoughts into how January is trending. Deal? All right. Let's start with what we always do on the blog this time of day, and that is the snowboard. Haven't really changed it a whole lot. I'm going to keep it basically the same here with rain to snow showers as we head into your Thursday night, early Friday. A minor issue on the snow side, but just something we want to mention there. And as we get into the second part of December into January, that's when we start to get into a little bit more of an interesting setup that will take hold. I'll go with right now with just rain or snow for that matter. And we'll get into a little bit more on the why here in just a few more minutes. All right. In the short term, we've got a thaw lane taking place. Hey, where'd that snow go? Was there in New Albany? Yeah, it's gone now. Yep. You still may snow on the ground in Indiana, southeast Indiana, up 71 in Kentucky. You probably get patches. Snow mounds in the parking lots, or if you shoveled into your driveway, yeah, those are going to hold on for maybe another day. But that rain that's coming is going to take care of it for sure. But at least we're getting a nice little chance to get outside, get the salt off the cars before the rain takes some of it off, but the rain will actually put more back on from off the road, splashing it back on you. At least it looks to be a heavy enough rain, and hopefully that will be a bit minimized there. All right, 47. We really just did not see a drop last night. If anything, we rose last night in temperature. It's been fascinating to see the impacts of this south wind that we've had in the last 24 hours. Keeping our numbers up. This is actually close to where we should be for highs for this time of the year. So we've changed the storyline quickly. Now the radar is showing rain along this boundary that's pushing through Kentucky. I think it's a little bit overdone. I haven't had any reports of raindrops making it to the ground. If you do see any, don't panic. It's real light stuff. So not overly worried about it. In fact, you're going to see more of some blue sky mixed in for the other side of this front. So Kentucky, we hold on to more of a cloudier setup for just a bit longer. Indiana, it'll go partly cloudy, and we'll see that partly cloudy trend work its way a little more south and east as we continue on through the afternoon. But that's about the only weather feature in town, and this is not the main front that's coming our way. The system for that is what's up here in the northwest. What a mess. I feel like we haven't had a lot of time to talk about it. I know the national media has been covering it, but this is big. I mean, this is a catastrophic type of setup happening here in the northwest. And based on the outlook, even into January, I just don't see anything changing, which is remarkable. Yeah, I don't know where this is going to go in the storyline, but if you have friends or family in the Pacific Northwest, I don't feel like they get as much headline coverage in the Northwest. The East Coast, absolutely. California, absolutely. But you get into the northwest corner of the country, usually when big weather event happens, you don't always hear about it as much. Not sure why, but this is big. There's a lot happening here. These poor folks have been dealing with wild weather for days and days. I don't think they can even remember the last time they saw sunshine in this area. They even have a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado tag even into Idaho. But let me break down some of the alerts in this area, because this is the atmospheric river you may be hearing about. This is the flow coming straight in from the Pacific that sends the energy down on the other side of the Rockies and becomes our system. That's how most of our snow events have actually been pulled off of this flow in the Northwest. We get pieces of this they get the full-on, line leader kind of thing, right in the very front. But some of the alerts that are coming out, these are blizzard warnings into the Cascades on either side of the Puget Sound, pretty wild. Into Montana, winter storm watches, winter weather advisories, winter storm watches. Look at the high wind warning. That's just about all of Montana, a high wind warning, but obviously anything elevated and down the front range as the wind compresses is leading to these high wind alerts and warnings that are out. And on flooding, it's only really right on the coastline, right when the rain goes up the mountains themselves. It produces a tremendous amount. Then it tends to get a little drier when it goes to the other side of the Cascades, but still into the northwest areas, west coast in general of I-5 and west, Washington State and Oregon. It's wild stuff there. So I hope they're going to hang on tight. If you have any travel plans to this area of the country, it is certainly a lot of delays, and they will be dealing with delays for a long time. Not exactly a good vacation spot to head to this time of the year. A lot of folks like to go up there and do some skiing or visit into Vancouver, or whatever the case may be. It's just going to be nasty for a while. All right. Now, yes, it's adding a lot to the ski slopes, but you got to get there first, and that's going to be the challenge. So we'll continue to monitor their trends. Now, our alerts in our region, no official weather service alerts, but the Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk of severe weather. That's still there. It's very low end, level 1 out of 5. Basically on the southern part of Indiana all the way down into Tennessee. I doubt this is going to change. Do we see this going to a slight risk? Not at the moment. I've been looking over the data today, and there's just nothing that stands out that elevated what the trend has been this week. Everything kind of displayed an active front, and then it hasn't really done much with it since then. So that's the reason why we haven't gone forward with an alert day on the thunderstorm side of things, because we're just not seeing a lot of support that is raising our eyebrows for right now. Anyway, let me show you the Futurecast. This is one of our in-house models. We'll start with today. Explain that. We do have this lower cloud deck that'll move in tonight. Some of this will be fog before the wind kind of shakes it up a bit. But in general, it's a warm flow. So temperature should rise tonight again while you're asleep. It's got 45 in the morning. I think many of you will be 50, if not earlier in the day. You'll be at 50. So a warm start right out of the gate. You'll start to get showers. This is warm air advection showers. The only thing we got to watch for tomorrow that would lead to a stronger storm setup and or stronger wind gusts is an obvious one. I'm going to say it, and as the sun. And right now, this is such an active flow. We may get a few peaks of sun. That's not going to be enough. So don't panic if you see the sun come out for a second and it gets bright out and then it goes back behind the cloud. Don't think, oh, that's it. That's it. It's over. The forecast is off and it's going to be wild. No, I'm talking about several peaks of sunshine there. Again, would start to increase the thunderstorm potential, and it would increase the general wind gust throughout the day. There are holes in the clouds shown up on the modeling, but this isn't always accurate, and it doesn't always get every layer of the cloud deck correct. So even though you may clear out one layer, it misses one other layer that still blocks the sun. So anyway, that's one of the things we'll be watching as we head into your Thursday for the first part of the day. We get into the afternoon. This has not really changed a lot. This is all about the afternoon and evening commute. We'll start to have some of the bigger impacts. If you don't like the drive and the rain in Louisville, especially heavier rain and gusty winds, you don't want to deal with that mess. It's hard to do it on a quiet day in Louisville anymore. But certainly tomorrow, if you're able to leave a little earlier, I would leave earlier. The earlier into the rush hour window you are out of the office and get your hindquarters on home, you're good. The more you wait and get into the core of rush hour, I'm talking like 5:30 to 6:30 to 7 in that range, then you're going to be in this mess. So there'll be two bands still that show up. At least the first band will try to be an organized line. I don't think it'll be fully that way. It's looking very blotchy, but it will have the appearance of a line. That'll be the one. If there's going to be a lightning and thunder, I think it may accompany this. But anyway, it'll be moving in as early as 5:30 with the rain coming through. Then as we get into the 7 o'clock hour, that is when the heaviest of the rainfall rates in that narrow line, it looks like a squall line. It technically is. But I just don't think it's going to have much in the way of lightning with it at all. But it can produce some stronger wind gusts that can get pulled down. Even a tall shower can do that in the scenario, right? But there's still some question of whether or not it can get below the tree line. So the radar may indicate strong winds, and I'm talking just above the height of buildings in downtown Louisville. The wind could be really strong there, but it's a lot of the instruments we have at the Kentucky Mesonet sites, at the airport, whatever the case would be, are not indicating gust matching that, indicating that there's an inversion. The wind is not able to get below that line. That is possible, but in these scenarios, it never goes, first off, never goes exactly how the models say, and two, it never goes uniformly. It definitely varies along that line. So it's hard to forecast that. If we see a growing potential on this being more of an impact, yes, we would upgrade this to an alert day setup. But right now we're thinking that, yes, it's going to be windy and rainy, but we don't see anything right now excessive compared to what you normally would face. So just be aware of the changes that could still happen with this, but the timing's still the same for the mid and latter portion of rush hour tomorrow. Is going to be a mess. Okay, it's just going to be slow traffic. It's going to be nasty out. So if you can avoid it, you've had a heads up all week. So no excuses. Try to adjust if you can. Still a hint of that main rain band trying to go to snow. He's trying to. Still think it's out of wave country. This is more toward I-70 because of their snowpack. Maybe a little slower to get rid of. I just think that they're just a colder profile in general. A little easier to get to a drop. And they're closer to the core of the low temperatures, too, and near that low pressure. So any switch over to snow, I think it's going to be out of our area, but it may be interesting on the radar for Indiana and up 71 there, or along I-70. So many interstates to keep track of. All right. Anyway, here's what gets weird, though. We get this initial round of rain and wind. This is roughly going to be about, it's moving fast, so it's got a limit to it. But if you get every single one of these little blotches of rain impact you, you can easily get to an inch of rain. If you only deal with a couple of them and the main line and that's it, you're looking at about a ½ inch to maybe 3/4. So this is not an excessive amount as far as flooding, just because of its progressive nature. But no doubt, the rate will be intense. The amount will not be as far as excessive, but the rate at the point it's coming down, that's what's going to affect visibility. So just use caution, especially when that narrow line comes through. That's where you're going to get some of that stronger wind and the heaviest of rain. And again, 7 o'clock hour, keep stating out over and over and over again so that that's fair. For Louisville, obviously a little earlier west, a little later east. But Louisville will be the same timing as I-65. It's going to be fairly lined up with the interstate. Okay, so what happens after that gets a little interesting, because after the rain moves out, we start to see a drop in temperature down into the 40s. Okay, that's above freezing. That's not a flash freeze kind of concern. But the problem we got is there is a secondary boundary right here, the second front. This is the one that's got the cold weather with it. And this is the one that's got the warmer flow with it and the rain. There is a gap between the two right here. This is going to be 8 p.m., 9 p.m. through about maybe 2 to 3 a.m. During that window, what is interesting is this is where we talked about how the wind relaxes, right? I'll come back to that in a second, but that is something that we'll be watching, is the lack of strong wind during a time period when the temperatures try to crash, and then the wind goes back up again. At that point, this is the main push of cold. It'll arrive about 2 a.m., and that's when the temperatures drop much more, and then snow showers, which will not be the big story. Snow will not be this time around. But festive snow showers will zip on by. I mean, the wind's going to be so strong, you have to track them and try to keep up with them because they'll be flying on by sideways. So it's hard for them to accumulate when it does that. Otherwise, cold. I mean, yeah, wind chills. Some of you in our northern counties may have wind chills about 8 or 9 above. Here in Louisville, I would say about 12 to 15 for a wind chill by Friday morning. So it's going to be cold and blustery. So back out to the park as we go on Friday. And you can see the freezing line right across wave country. Doesn't really move very much. Stays cold on Friday, even if we may get some late day sun, which is possible. And then we're going to reverse this and warm right back up as we head into Saturday with some gusty winds. All right, I told you a couple of things here that stood out. First off, let me show you the severe thunderstorm elements of this. This is looking from SIPS analogs, which for some reason, this is each column here. This is tornado, hail, and damaging winds, as each column is. Top row, SIPS analogs, CSU, the AI learning module, and then SBC at the bottom. Notice the analogs are much more aggressive with the severe weather parameters, and each one of those especially in southern Kentucky down into the deep south. And again, it's pulling data based on history of what has happened in the past in these scenarios. That's where it gets its data. The AI just basically says, hey, it's looking at the weather elements and it's saying this is what we feel is most likely to happen on the AI setup. Yeah, it's got something for each category, but it's much tamer compared to the analogs and a little more focused west. It's really only the damaging wind scenario, the last one, that is really impacting our counties. And then obviously the HPC is like, nope, 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 nope. There we go. And that one's a damaging wind. That is the reason for the marginal risk. Okay, that is the severe weather elements. Nothing too outstanding here. But here is the, say for an example, this is the graph model in a numerical form. I know this is a lot of data. It looks like they've actual matrix, doesn't it? But this is time period. All right, here we are currently, and this is going through time through Thursday, then Friday, and then Saturday. And there are a lot of different weather elements here of temperature, wind chill, wind gust, winds aloft, air pressure, rainfall amount, yada, yada, yada. What I want you to look at, though, is the wind that is sustained, which is going to be this column right, if I can draw it, here we go, right in through here, this column right here. Look at this column. I'll get rid of my drawing. Notice how the wind ramps up as we head throughout the day on Thursday, up to 22 miles per hour is its estimate. And then suddenly, right there, as you get into 8 to 9 p.m., it drops, in some cases, below 10 miles per hour. That's the secondary front. But the wind relaxes a bit. And that's interesting because now temperatures not exactly crashing at that point. They do get colder. But my concern here is if the wind relaxes, is that still going to be enough wind to try to dry out the roads from all the rain we'll have at rush hour? Now, the wind does come back with the cold push. It ramps right back up again, and that's when we see those numbers drop into the 20s. But this factor right here, this little lull that happens after the first round of rain, is that going to be a setup that could feature enough? What is happening in my system? It's going nuts here today. Sorry. Where's Ryan? Ryan, are you in here? No, Ryan's not in here. There we go. This whole system's got some gremlins here today, so I'm sorry. It's always when I'm on. Anyway, that's what we're going to be watching. If we see that potential grow where we may not dry the roads out, that's when we could run into icy patches for Thursday night, early Friday. I'm getting a lot of questions on that. Right now, we're thinking the wind will be enough to dry the roads out, or the duration of nothing falling at all for about 6 hours, it looks like. We're thinking the freezing mark will be hit, especially in Louisville, about 2 a.m. And so that will give us roughly 8 o'clock until 2 a.m. where there's nothing falling, and the wind will be relatively light. So the roads will be wet, but is that enough time for them to just dry out until we get to 2 a.m.? Yes, it actually is enough time. The wind would speed that up even more, yes. But the lack of wind is the only thing that's like, oh, okay, well, here's what we got to get into. Some areas that are not as exposed to the wind, you may then find icy patches. And certainly this is a setup where your car door could be frozen. When you go out to the car Friday morning, you go to pull on it, it may be a little sticky because the water from the rain will be in all the crevices of the door frame. That will freeze up. Remember, don't pull on the handle very hard and don't pour hot water on that. It shouldn't be an overly frozen setup where you're going to be like, oh no, I got to call AAA. It should open. It'll just be a little bit of a stick, a little bit of ice there. All right. So don't be too alarmed on that. But this is one of those setups that features a common theme that we've seen this many times. And majority of the time, I would say at least 80% of the time, the wind takes care of the problem. And we don't have to worry about a freeze up. But there have been some cases where we've had flash freezes. But in those situations, you've got to have the lack of wind. And so with this being a windy setup overall, we're just trusting the data that shows that lull. But is it right? Will the wind still stay up? That's something we're not going to know until we really get into this. All right, I don't want to get too in the weeds on it, but that's where we're at on any flash freeze potential, is just that lack of wind scenario that we're getting. Hold on one second. I got something I got to show here. There's our system's acting a little nuts. Okay, there we go. So as we get into snow accumulation, I'm not worried about the snow showers. They will take a while to form. They will be more with the actual cold push of air that moves in as we get into Friday morning. These will blow around a bit, but they will likely be around for the kids at the bus stop. There is school on Friday, right? I know sometimes they get out a little earlier for the Christmas break. But there will be some snow showers around for those you heading out to work Friday morning school. They'll be flying around. It'll look like a snow globe, but again, most of them will be sideways. I think your bigger issue is going to be the wind chill. That's what you need to be prepared for. Again, a cold, blustery day. Any questions on any of this aspect of the forecast for Thursday into Friday? Again, everything is just under all of our thresholds for an alert day setup. But it wouldn't take much to move really any of these elements in any one direction, and we're there. So we're trying to be very thoughtful about those kind of alerts, especially when they have multiple elements to them and multiple time frames. We don't want to confuse you guys even more. So we're trying to just monitor it carefully. And if we see that one that stands up more than the other, then we'll let you know. But we're not there yet. Everyone good? Everyone's asking about January. No one's paying any attention. No one cares about anything I'm talking about for tomorrow. You guys are so predictable, unlike the weather. All right. I guess you guys are ready to talk about the long term. All right. I'll stop rambling. Let's get into it. Here we go with this weekend. It will be windy, by the way, on Saturday. Gusty winds. Rapid flip. I mean, whiplash. All right. We're going to go from wind chills in the 20s all day on Friday to highs back in the mid 50s. But it will be windy on Saturday. Not the easiest of days, by the way, for your inflatables. Mine did not do well last night. Wind got a little stronger than even I was expecting because the ground's just soggy from the snow melt. Yeah, mine didn't do well. So I'm not turning mine on for the next couple of days because Friday will be windy and Saturday's going to be windy. So it's not going to be a fun time here for your inflatables, unless you have them anchored down really good. And some of you do. I've seen your displays. You did a good job. But the wet ground is going to be a problem, especially with those stakes. It's so easy for the wind just to pull those stakes just right out of the ground. Okay, so anyway, the weekend overall, Saturday will be warmer than Sunday. If you have holiday parties this weekend, Saturday's warmer than Sunday. Sunday, don't see much happening on Sunday as far as anything weather-wise falling from the sky, but it will be a colder day in the 40s. You will notice it. We get into early next week. That's when we start to get in some light rain. A very cloudy setup for Christmas week, to be honest. If you're expecting a lot of sun for Christmas week, I don't see a lot of sun. Even though it's going to be a warmer flow, it's going to be a cloudy flow and at times drizzle, passing light showers. I don't see severe weather taking place, but it just looks messy at times. Not, what you're probably thinking of when we think of warm weather for Christmas. You're thinking probably sunshine, everyone, Santa's in shorts, that kind of thing. Not exactly with this one. It's not like 2021 when we jumped to 75 degrees, which is our warmest Christmas ever, by the way, just a few years ago. It doesn't seem clear cut as that. It's just too noisy with the moisture flow coming in. So we'll fine tune the rain chances as we get into Christmas week, but every day pretty much we'll have one just because the general flow that'll be right over our heads, very light showers, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, same storyline, windy, breezy at times, but it does look warm. But then just after Christmas, that is when we start to see signs of change. And this is where the model stops that I can show you. This will be a front that will likely impact the very end of December and will likely dive down a shot of cold air. The Euro doesn't quite have it right. GFS, not far from it. But I'm not going to show either one. I'm just going to tell you what it will likely trend toward because I don't think either one of them are right yet. But the indicators are still overwhelmingly there that the North Atlantic oscillation is going negative. Now, that's just one piece to a weather equation for flipping to cold weather, but can be a significant one for the winter in our area. When you see that drop below the black line, you're going to get slower moving systems. You're going to get colder shots of air. It's a block basically over Greenland is what happens. And when you stop the flow in the Northern Atlantic and Greenland, then the colder shots of air that are trying to just keep going around the polar vortex over and over again, they hit basically a roadblock and then they just get pulled south. When does that happen? Does that mean we get snow with that? I don't know. That's stuff we can't answer in advance. All we can tell you is the pattern will flip into a colder setup. That's step one, right? The matrix from the Euro starting to get a little noisier as we head into the end of December and early January. This is going to change. I fully expect this to fill in a bit more with scenarios that will start showing up. That's why it's on the snowboard. And we'll just, we'll see how it looks as we get closer. So that's going to lead into January. And I know there's a lot of talk about how January is going to play out. There's a lot of theories on whether the polar vortex is going to stretch or how this is all going to evolve, but it is very likely because we are seeing the exact same signal hitting Seattle and into Eugene, Oregon. Their weather flow that's been ongoing for them for a while, right? With all the flooding, all the weather elements I showed you, that remains. So that tells us this temporary warming trend that we're seeing is not necessarily a pattern change, as it is just an interruption of the cold. So once this interruption of warmth gets out of the way, we snap back. And that's where I'm going to go with the trends, returning back to some cold Arctic shots of air, but we're going to get, I mean, I know this month has been cold. I mean, unusually cold. We're going to get to some really cold shots of air again, diving down across the eastern United States. Some of these actually may be sustained. What do I mean by that? They could last more than just a few days. We could have cold that can hold on for more than a week, maybe up to 2 weeks. Could be an interesting trend here for January. And obviously, because of all that, snow potential will go up, whether that's in the form of clippers or maybe a phased system of something that rolls in from the deep south. I don't know that answer. I wish I did. But the pattern would be very similar to what we just came out of, and we got cold and we got snow out of it. So if we're seeing the same kind of look coming our way, then it goes without saying that this is probably going to go back to what it was. So we'll see. It's a blank Christmas matrix. Yeah, blank for Christmas. Any questions on that? Everyone good? We'll go into more detail in the coming days. It's, not even winter technically. It's still, we got to get through that. But I think that this is where we're going into January, and you will see the first hints of this before we say hello to 2026. You will see the first sign of this reverting back. So the Christmas period, enjoy it. Take advantage of that warm thaw. If your furnace has been acting up, now's the time to get that taken care of, get it fixed. You got pipe issues, get those fixed while it's warm and we're trying to thaw. Plan. And that way you're better prepared for what this may likely look like as it returns down the road. All right, there you go. There's your snapshot. Here's the 10-day, and I'll get to some of your questions before I got to go. All right, let's start with today. Obviously, not too bad, 55. Tomorrow, 60. Yeah, you know what? I will be honest, that 60 tomorrow is in jeopardy. If we get showers too early in the day, like at noon, we're not going to hit 60. It would be more like 52 or 53. No, that doesn't mean that we're more at risk for the flash freeze. The amount of cold air is the exact same. It's just the front end warmth may vary. But we'll be optimistic and go with 60 here and account for maybe 1 or 2 sun breaks. But don't be surprised if that number trends down. Then you get into Thursday night and Friday. There we go. Blah, blah, blah. Winter. Woo, we're all shivering. And then we bounce back. And then Christmas week, gradually warming up. But even at night, overnight lows in the 50s, daytime highs in the 60s. That's unusual. And it will give our furnaces a breather, which is nice. Nice to see that. Would you say, David, appreciate you having a place for fellow snow lovers. You're welcome, David. That's been my goal for 25 years. And there are a lot of you out there. Even the snow haters love to see what we're saying so they can pick on us later. That's right. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome. This is the only time of the year that I actually physically feel like I work. Other times of the year, I'm just lazy. I'm very sleepy. Well, I'm very sleepy too. It's nap time. All right, there we go. Everyone good? All right, guys, I'm going to stop rambling. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's all going to be about radar and how we're trending with the temperature drop tomorrow night. So a lot of short-term stuff tomorrow. And if I get any long-term nuggets, I'll share it with you. I'll see you guys soon.